Aye.
It's the Champions League. It's match day 2. It's the two Kevins. Kevin Graham and Kevin McCluskey. Kevin Graham in Bannockburn and Kevin McCluskey in Budapest, which is far closer to Warsaw than what I am.
Aye. And not twinned with Bannockburn at all.
No, it's no. I'm sure. No, I don't care how. They're both beautiful places. Both beautiful places.
Aye. I'm always saying that. I get the two places mixed up.
Aye. Definitely. Now, it's match day 2. We're in Warsaw. We're playing Shakhtar Donetsk. First things first, let's have a look at the team. So in goals, we've got Joe Hart. Yay! Well, we did it in the style of the Celtic announcer. Lovely. Then we've got Josip Juranovic. Yay! Then America's sweetheart, Cameron Carter-Vickers. Then Moritz Jens. Ayrshire's finest, Greg Taylor. Captain Callum McGregor. Rio, his crossfield passes are utterly fantastic. Hatate. Matt O'Reilly. I need to think of something smart to say about Matt O'Reilly, but I can't at this precise moment in time. Haskabanovic, Kyogo, and Jota. Think right away. I was on with John earlier on in the bulletin. Right away, Haskabanovic is the curveball. Is the absolute curveball in that team.
Aye, big time. I think we can all agree, though, that it's just a good thing that Aaron Moyes knowing it. I think, Kev.
Aye, well, I had to do something to be controversial this afternoon.
You had to. So I think he might have a part to play later on in the game, but I don't think he would have started him. But aye, Haksabanovic is the curveball. I don't think anyone had thought of him as being a starter. He was kind of between Abada and Maeda. I think we all thought to be up top. So interesting to see what he does. He's done well in his sub appearances so far. So why not chuck him in? Let's see what he does in the big game.
Aye, Jason Lee comes in. Oh wow, Hacksaw starting and Daniel F. Excited to see Hatzkabanovic. I was just watching. The reason that we were slightly late starting there is Ange Postecoglou was getting interviewed, and I decided to hang back and hear what he says. And what he basically says was that both players have trained well. He was talking about Kyogo and Haksabanovic. He says both players have trained well. We didn't have a game at the weekend to have a look at them for circumstances beyond our control. And he says it just feels good. He says he wants to take the game to Shakhtar. He expects Celtic to control the game, but these guys have got the ability to change it if Shakhtar get a grip on it as well. So he was thinking ahead. I think what he's actually thinking, and when you listen to guys who talk about Ukrainian football and the way that Shakhtar are going to play tonight, they're going to let us have the ball, it seems, and going to try and hit us on the counter-attack. That seems to be the game plan.
Right, it seems that way. I don't know if you remember him from Colin's shows in the Euros, but I was talking during the week there to Adam Pate.
Yes.
The Ukrainian football expert that you got on. So actually I know Adam quite well, as you'll know from him having to relocate to Hungary during the summer. So I was speaking to him a couple of days ago, trying to get the lowdown on everything Shakhtar. And that's basically what he said. They decide that they'll kind of let you have a bit of the possession, try and hit you on the break, because they don't really have, and it's kind of seemed a bit surprising to me with some of the players they've got, but he said they don't really have that ability to break a team down if they've got a stubborn backline. So their game plan will be, I think, to give Celtic a lot of the ball and then try and hit us on the break. So we'll see how that plays out.
This afternoon, me and John spoke loads about Mudryk. I think that's how you say it, or Mudraker. I think that's what I'll call him for the next 90 minutes. He seems to be the star man. If you watch any of their highlights, he seems to be the one that everything goes through. Absolutely everything goes through. We're going to need to watch that. We're going to need to watch the counter-attack. Just me being me and having watched Celtic in Europe for over 30-odd years or 40-odd years, I'm just worried that we get caught in the counter-attack, because we always seem to get caught in their counter-attack, and Shakhtar seems set up for that. I love the fact that it sounds like we're going to have the ball. I really enjoy it when we do have the ball and we're not actually sitting in. Haksabanovic for me is a curveball. I did expect Maeda. I didn't expect Haskabanovic to come in, but maybe this shows you how highly Ange Postecoglou rates him and why he was so desperate to get him.
Aye, I think so. I mean, he's obviously been brought in for these kind of games, and that's probably been the lure and the attraction to get him in the first place. So if he's fit enough to play, we've seen enough, I think, and was at Ross County, made his debut against, and then Real Madrid last week. He's looked a good player. He's confident in the ball. He was willing to drive on and take on the defence. By all accounts, Shakhtar's defence maybe isn't the best. It'd be a bit slow, cumbersome at times. So if he's prepared to run at them and, take them on, I think this could be an ideal game for him. And it's not as if we don't have the players on the bench that could come on if it's not working out. You've got Abada, you've got Maeda, even James Forrest could come on, do a job there. So I don't see that being a risky move.
Kev, don't remember the last time we done a match day, we mentioned James Forrest could do a job for us. We can't say that anymore.
Did we not win the league that night, though?
We did win the league that night, but
I almost get away with that.
I remember we were backtracking furiously at half time. Our pre-game comments. It's interesting that you talk.
All that section's been deleted for history.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to bring in Joe Porter here because you spoke about the bench, and this is exactly what Joe says. When you see that lineup on the bench, you see so clearly that Ange has taken 2 years to build the best squad we've had in 15. What do you think of that?
Nothing off it, is it? I mean, I don't know. Paul and I were talking last week about, if you remember the game against Barcelona and the anniversary of the club, the birthday of the club. And we were going through that team, the team that beat them 2-1. Hardly anyone, if any, of that team would make it into a starting 11 now.
Aye.
And that was a team that was capable of beating, on the night, the best team in the world at that time. And Ange just, in the space of like 15 months, taking a team that capitulated and threw away 10 in a row, if we can still talk about that, and was on its knees. And now look at us, I think, it's a fair comment to say it probably is the strongest team we've had in 15 years. And it's one that took us into last week's game with loads of confidence that we could get a result against Madrid, that we could match them for a lengthy spell in the game. And I think it's one that gives us confidence that tonight, we're going into a tough away game thinking it's not out with the realms of possibility that we could win all 3 points.
I think a lot of last week's hula bala and confidence just came for us, just being first time in the Champions League for 5 years. You've got the European champions coming to Celtic Park. The eyes of Europe were on Celtic Park, and I think we were just being, we could actually do this tonight. This could be another night for fairy tales. This could be another night to add to the book of fairy tales, which is extremely thick at Celtic Football Club. Whereas deep down we were no, well, it might be a step too soon for us. For me, this is like the game against Ferencváros last year. Mm-hmm. Whereas this was a game where I looked at going, for a sign of progress, we need to do well in this game, which is not get beat. And we ended up taking 6 points off Ferencváros. And I went, well, I want to get to the point where you're beating teams like Ferencváros consistently and you're not worried of going to these places. You're always going to be worried going to these places, Kevin. But you've got yourself, instead of it becoming 50-50, it then becomes 70-30. You're thinking to yourself, you're going to really need to have a bad night here to actually not get at least a point. No, this is the next level. This is the next level up. We can only base Donetsk on the Shakhtar on the result last week. 4-1 in Germany, 4-1 in East Germany, and you're going, that's a cracking result on paper. If you're watching the whole game, if you have a look at it, Leipzig absolutely dominated the game. Shakhtar had 5 shots on goal and scored 4 of them. Right, that's a great record to have in European Higby. But you're still looking at this. We're a pot 4 team, they're a pot 3 team. This is a pot 3 team that we're looking to challenge. We need to, if we want to finish our minimum, finish third, we've got to look for at least a point tonight. And this is a better indicator than last week where we are.
Oh, definitely. Aye. Last week, the chat, it was bravado a bit last week. Like you say, it's that excitement of being in the Champions League for the first time in 5 years. It's the fairy tale of Celtic. We're going to be the champions of Europe, and
that's allowed. Getting carried away. That is allowed.
Aye, it's totally allowed. There's nothing wrong with it.
Apologise for that.
If you go into that game thinking that you're going to get scalped, then you're going to get scalped. If you go in thinking that you can challenge them for a bit, you've got a chance. And for 55 minutes we challenged them and we had a chance. And if we'd scored first, you never know. Could have won that game. But this is the one, like you say.
I'd never know it. And there's my dad just came in the background there. I think he forgets I'm on live. You may as well wave, Dad. You're on to the nation now, by the way, pal. There's only folk watching you, Dad. That's perfect.
That's funny for me.
Well, I've usually got the cat sticking his bum in the camera.
You can't take him anywhere.
In your room here, so no. That's right.
What were we talking about before that?
Everybody wanted to get on the Axom.
What were we talking about before that interruption? I can't remember now.
I was just rabbiting on about last week and how we were allowed to be confident about it, and then this week being the game. Well, I think you're right to say it. Like, this is the one. This is where the Champions League starts for us now. Like,
definitely, I'm with
Real Madrid. You get a free hit at Real Madrid because you're not really expected to win that. But this is the one where it starts. This is, as you say, it's the pot 4 team, us against the pot 3 team. If we want to progress in the group, they're the minimum team we've got to beat. We've got to be looking to take 4 points off them at the 2 games.
Definitely.
And then look to be taking probably 3, the home game against Leipzig. And then that gets us out the group, either Champions League or into Europa League. And that's what we've got to be looking at. And this is exactly where it starts. This is the acid test game. It's how far we've come.
Definitely, I'm really looking forward to it. One thing John says this afternoon, he says that this is a game where, because of everything that's actually happened to Shakhtar, we should be looking to actually beat like Shakhtar, because they've lost £50 million worth of talent. They've lost the Brazilians and stuff like that. He says we can't keep on saying we're building. Whereas I'm of the opinion where there's actually two. We can actually still be rebuilding and still have a chance to win this game. But if the result doesn't go our way, you can still go, by the way, we're still building up to this level, because this level may have came like a wee bit too soon for us. But we're basing it on 55 minutes last week. 55 minutes last week where if we take our chances, if we create chances and take our chances tonight, we've got a chance of getting a result. And if we would have took our chances last week, we might have had a chance of getting a result last week. We'll never know if that's going to happen or not.
Aye, no, exactly. It's spot on. Like you say, last week, if we score first, there's always a threat that you anger Real Madrid, right? Because they're not used to going behind and they don't want to lose to Celtic. So you could anger them and you get a reaction and they go and beat us 4 or 5-1. Or we can hold out and get the miracle, the fairy tale result. Tonight's the night. If we score first, we've got to be good enough to hold that. And if they score first, we've got to be good enough to come back. We've got to, I think, just go into this game believing that we're at least equal to Shakhtar. And they're a side they're in, like you say, in transition as well. Lost a lot of good players. So this game was 2 or 3 years ago when they had all the Brazilians. It's a totally different game. But now, I don't know. You've just got to have the confidence that you can do it. And I'd rather look at how we can win the game than lose the game. And we've got the players in the park that can win us this match, I think.
I think so as well. Let's have a look at the team. I mean, obviously, the surprise is Haksabanovic starting. I did actually say this afternoon, Aaron Moy might be a defensive option. That's one of my. I'm not going to backpedal on that. I still think that we should have signed a defensive midfielder before we actually did. Oliver Abelgard could be that player, but the fact is he's on the bench tonight, he's not playing. I would feel a bit more confident with a defensive-minded player sitting in that. And I shouted for that Kevin Fimay last year. For me, after the Tannadice game, I went like, we need a right defensive midfielder who's rangy and athletic, who can actually go across the pitch. Abelgard seems to actually fit that bill, but he's not at the level to actually start tonight. So the big hole that I thought we had in the team last season for me is still there. But on the other hand, Atati's improved, Matt O'Reilly's improved, and like Callum McGregor last week was utterly fantastic. So I'm sitting here more and more confident, going, well, Callum McGregor can do that sitting role no problem, and watch for those those breakouts, which will come. which will actually come.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the way they play on the break, I think. And if you look through their team, Mudryk is the star man. Really really fast, pacey player, really skillful in the ball, built for the counter-attacking style. They've got Zubkov, that used to play with Ferencváros on the right. I know him quite well. Another really kind of direct player. Shred, we know him. He's direct. It's their game is to hit in the break. You'd obviously feel more comfortable or confident if we had that holding player in there, because he's going to stop those runs and stop those moves from happening. But we've probably seen enough that McGregor's good enough to do it. I think at this level now, to be honest with you, he's good enough to be the number 6 and to hold. He's got the discipline to do it. If we get the first goal and we can hold it and then bring on, I'm going to have a go at him there as well, Abdelgard, if we can bring him on for the last half an hour to hold a lead, I mean, that could be the ideal time to bring him on, the ideal sub to make, player to have on the bench. So I do agree, though, that it's the one area in the midfield that we're lacking, because we've got creativity, we've got the boys that can do the simple stuff. We need a destroyer. I'd said on show ages ago, and I'll get pelted for it again, but I'd said we need a Gattuso type. That's the boy I'd love to see in there. Just the boy that snarls away in the European games, doesn't let anybody settle. So I'm hoping that Abdelgard is that kind of player when he gets in.
Everything that I've read about him, he seems to be that kind of player, but he just came in too late. But he's on the bench tonight. He might be seen, he might not be seen if we're coming out. Mm-hmm. If we need to close out the game, I reckon that Ange Postecoglou will go for Moy rather than Abildgaard. I'm going to say it like the German newspaper, Abildgaard. That's what I'm going to say it like. So I would
call him Oliver from now on. It's easier.
Ollie.
Big Ollie.
The last Ollie that we had, who's now still ripping up the Bundesliga. That boy's agent deserves an absolute medal for getting him so many clubs. Anyway,
he's not the Scottish player with the highest transfer fee history or whatever like that. No, he must be. He's moved for about 10 million 3 times. And he's rotten.
I'm going to bring up Joe Fulham here. The screen looks like a before and after paint room job. We had Dion Dublin in, like Holmes under the hammer. This is before, and this is how your home could look. Brilliant. Any worries in defence?
I don't think you want me as the after look.
Well, you're the younger looking me. That's what it is. Any worries in the defence? Joe Hart's going to probably get called on a couple of times tonight, but that's what we need our goalkeeper to do. Juranovic again up against their star man. He's got to actually watch it. I didn't think Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jens looked out of place last week. They weren't really at fault for any of the goals or anything like that. And Greg Taylor at left back, but that back four virtually picked itself as soon as Cal Starfelt was injured. It really did.
Oh, it did. It's the best defence we've got at the moment with everybody that's available. Starfelt would probably struggle to get back in at the moment. As the back two, Carter Vickers and Jens, I thought they were excellent last week. Both of them. We commented on that during the game. Like any high ball that came in, Carter Vickers seemed to get ahead in it and win it. Anything that was on the ground, Jens had the good positioning, was getting across and covering. Both were good with the ball at their feet, building the attacks out. So absolutely no worries with them. I think they'll forge a really good partnership, I think, going through, and it'll be tough for Starfelt to get back in. Fullbacks again for me pick themselves. I know I think John was trying to get Ralston in at right back tonight. You can maybe see that a bit because he's a bit more defensive. Like he's not going to bomb forward as much as Juranovic, but Juranovic can defend as well. He got caught out once or twice maybe at the start of the game against Madrid, and then he tightened up. So if he goes in with that attitude again, you're fine with him. And Greg Taylor's usually, touch wood and all that, usually Mr. Reliable at left back. So I'd definitely rather have him in than Bernabei, because he'll get caught out with the pace, I think. So.
It was interesting, Kevin. I watched an interview with Georgios Giacomakis, and what he says was that they do watch the opposition team and they do make changes to the opposition team, depending on the tactics of the team that they're going to face. It must be quite difficult in Scotland when the teams just park the bus, but it must be absolutely difficult to do that. But in Europe anyway, And Maurice Jens says it as well, that he says he expects them to allow us to have the ball. So Celtic will know where their out ball is, and they will know that their out ball is Mudryk on the left-hand side. And I'm sure Josip Juranovic will be under specific orders to calm down. Maybe no be as adventurous as what he would usually be. And he always makes sure that the back door's bolted.
You'll probably see it that Taylor will be more advanced on the left. Juranovic will maybe just hang back, maybe not cross the halfway line just as much. But it doesn't change our style of play, the way we'll approach the game. It's just, these are the things that Ange does, and he does them really well. He doesn't change the style. He just makes wee tweaks here and there. As he says, just to combat whatever the opposition's going to do. But if it means Juranovic hangs back, Taylor comes a bit more forward, then you've got Taylor, Hatate, Jota on the left, linking up. It's a frightening combination to have.
Definitely. And up front, we've got Jota, who was quiet last week, but he's up against the European champions. He was quiet, he didn't do much, but this is a level I'm looking at going, well, I expect you to be a difference maker at this level. I didn't expect anything. I want you to be a difference maker at this level because we've paid quite a bit of cash for you and you look like you've got the ability, mate. Haskabanovic as well, great pedigree, an absolutely fantastic pedigree, comes straight in, and Kyogo has been brilliant for us. And I think if we're playing against a deep lying defence or a defence that's actually not going to come out, Kyogo's got that wee and football intelligence to get that space. Where if we get in behind, he's got the intelligence to get in and around the 6-yard box as well. I think Big Giakoumakis can actually feel a bit peeved after his performance last week, but push comes to shove, Kyogo's your starter, eh? When push comes to shove, yes. But it's great to have Giakoumakis on the bench.
Oh, yes, it seems to be when the big games come around, we might all want Giakoumakis to play, but Kyogo gets the nod. He's Andy's number one striker. Giakoumakis is a great option to have coming in off the bench if we need him. Someone that's a bit more physical. But I'm excited by the front three, especially in a game like this, because I actually thought Jota played all right last week, and he was up against Carvajal. He took him on a few times, got the better of him. Carvajal got the better of him, probably more often than not, but he's one of the best right backs in the world. So you expect that.
Mate. It's Carvajal.
Exactly. It's not as if he's up against, I can't even think of a name now, but your Ross County right back. You know, he's this is a few levels above that. So I think last week, hot shot Hamish. But I think last week's an eye opener for guys like Jota, because he wants to go and play at that level week in, week out. He wants to play in it year on year, Champions League. So he's aware now of probably what he needs to do to raise his game, to improve his game, to become that player. Tonight's his chance again to go out and prove that he can do it. He's against good opposition, but lesser opposition than last week. So he should have absolutely no fear that he can go and take on the full-back and make a big impression in the game. And then with Haksabanovic, Kyogo, I think there's really good movement between them as well. The front three, I think, will all rotate around throughout the game because they have defence problems. A lot of options, a lot of attacking threat that we've got. And then you look behind, like O'Reilly, he's made for this kind of game, I think, made for this kind of level with his passing ability. So, big hopes again.
I know it's big hopes. It's strange going into these European away games with absolute hopes. That might all be gone. That might all be gone within
the last time. Trying to think back to the last time we played Shakhtar, because it was many years ago. I think we got pumped off them.
We got beat 3-0 away for him, and I'm sure we scored the last Massimo Donati last-minute winner at Celtic Park. I'm sure that was it.
The game away from home was one of those ones. Another early kick-off, you get back home from work, turning the TV 5 minutes late, and we were 2-0 down. Cristiano Lucarelli just running wild, and you're like, oh, well, I've seen this one before. And then I think the last one was the Donati last-minute winner.
Last-minute winner,
But you're going into that away game, what was it, maybe 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was now, and you never gave us any hope of getting anything.
No.
We just didn't do anything away from home. And now, within one season, we've actually begun to get results away. We've won away from home in Europe now under Ange, and there's a genuine belief that this is a game that is winnable. Like we're not going to try and take 4 points out of this tie against them. We want all 6.
I will definitely, and I think the way ties against Leverkusen, Betis, and Ferencváros last year showed that we looked like a European team, and we looked like we could play away from home. And I think last week we looked like a modern European side as well. And as I says on the Wednesday after it, I was listening to it I was watching it on CBS Sports, and it was American commentary. And obviously the Americans are only there to watch Real Madrid, and they were really surprised how Celtic actually approached the game and actually played the game. They were like, we didn't expect this from Celtic. Tony Davorian, worried about Shakhtar's counter. How does this lineup affect that? I think Cal McGregor and Josip Juranovic have got a bit of work to do here to stop Shakhtar's counter. I think that's what Celtic have probably tactically set it up to be, that they too are going to need to watch the back door behind them, Kevin.
Yeah, I would think so. That's what we kind of spoke about earlier. I think they're going to be key defensively to us getting the result we kind of not expect but hope to get tonight. And I take on your point as well from earlier on about maybe Moy coming in as being the defensive player. I think we spoke about that. We definitely do need someone that's a bit more defensive minded. I don't think it's not Moy for me in this game, but I think McGregor needs to sit quite deep, just kind of in front of the back two really tonight, and curb that attacking threat that he's always got. Just sit deep. Same with Juranovic, maybe kind of halfway lines as far as he'll go, and keep an eye on Mudryk. And I don't think we'd go as far as to man mark him, but Juranovic has got to be kind of touch tight to him for most of the game, I think.
I've just remembered Juranovic played at this stadium for years. I've just Legia Warsaw, didn't he?
Aye.
I wonder if Big Arthur's in with the Celtic fans. Maybe he's in with the Green Brigade. Big Arthur. There we go.
You wouldn't be surprised.
No, wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Paddy Lavery, Kev Graham, I bought 4 tickets for a live show. Is that a promise there will be no porridge on the night? Me and Paul are still discussing my fee, Paddy. So at the moment there's no porridge, but that fee is getting discussed. Joe Fulham, Kev's second top on today. He's living the dream. There is a story about this, Joe. The Celtic top that I had on earlier on, I've wore it to 2 games and twice we've been beat. So I had to change it because I'm a superstitious mess with stuff like that. Egyptian King saying, Kevin, that the cat wants to give his score prediction for the night.
As he told me earlier on, he thinks it'll be 3-1 to Celtic.
3-1 Celtic. Michael Ross says his cat just says Moy. That's a good joke. That I like that joke. And Mark E tells us the teams are in the tunnel getting ready to go out, and I'll leave the last word to David Bradley. Give us a victory, Celtic. That's all we ask.
Right,
Me and Keith will be back at half time, and we'll be back at full time. So remember, keep it Celtic, and come on the hoops. See you all later.